What's up? Yeah, I can hear you. No. Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. Well, to be honest, I'm actually feeling kind of sick today. I'm not sure how long I'm going to be able to sit here and fake it, but I'm going to attempt to do it for a little while. Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I felt bad like, my girlfriend was like, "Oh, you should just cancel." And I was like, "Oh, I'll see if how long I can sit out here for and not puke." So, we'll just give it a little bit. Yeah, yeah, I figured it was super informal, so it wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. I gotcha. Go ahead and just pop- oh, you're fine. I actually just I'm trying out Restream right now. I've never tried it out before. So I wanted to see how it works because I've been using Streamlabs for the last like half a year. So I wanted to see how Restream would work because apparently you can stream to Twitch and YouTube for free versus Streamlabs was trying to make me. Yeah, because Streamlabs is like if you wanna have a second destination, you have to pay like 13 bucks a month, but Streamlabs is like, "We'll let you do Twitch and YouTube for free. You just have to have our watermark at the top right." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." Yeah, this is my first time using it right now. Like, it's up right now. So, yeah, I'm looking at me on Twitch. It gives me my name in the bottom left corner, and in the top right, I have the little Restream decal, like, in the top right, which that's fine with me. That keeps it free. Not at the moment. I was actually I was hoping to use this conversation as like a test, as like a test run to see how it worked because I've never actually streamed to YouTube before either, so I wanted to see how that would look. Yeah, so it's looking good on Twitch. It is streaming to YouTube. So, okay. Here we go. Thank you. Um so I guess just briefly without like going into like crazy amounts of detail, it was right around the 2020 election. Well, actually right before in the primary season, and I was just like I was basically absorbing any and all like debates and interviews, and I was watching all like 75,000 people who were running for president at that time. Um, and I just could not get over like just how bad some of the takes were on mainstream media. And I kind of just wanted just a place just to as like a an outlet, a place where I could just vent about my frustrations. And a buddy of mine, we would always just bullshit on the phone or sometimes like in person at the bar and shit, just about politics. And just one day I was like, we should just turn this into a podcast because I was just I don't know, it just kind of came up, and then it quickly devolved from like our thing into my thing. It seemed like he wasn't as interested in it as I was, and so yeah, it just kind of took off from there. I think in the first like couple months, it was mostly just me just venting into the void, so I didn't really take it too seriously. But then I think after the all the protests over the summer of 2020, I kind of like jumped back into it and I decided to, kind of give it another, I guess, consistent chance. And then I decided to try to like actually take it more seriously and like plan out my content and have guests on and actually grow the thing, and then it just kind of snowballed, and I've been doing it ever since. So not that long of an endeavor, but roughly about a year and a half right now, going on 2 years. Yeah. Yeah, I mean oh, go ahead, go ahead. Oh my god. Yeah, the amount of trial and error, was intense. It seriously was. I think I spent so much time trying to figure out, like, what worked, what didn't work, what was useful, what wasn't useful. I had a pretty decent idea of what I wanted to say, but it was also about trying to figure out what was the best way to implement what I wanted to say. Like, so, like, should I be doing it in like quick sound bites, or should I be doing these like long fucking like hour long speeches? Like I was trying to figure out like where my zone was, I guess you would say, like what my niche was. And so yeah, yeah. It took a while to figure out what felt right for me. And it's constantly been evolving ever since. Like I'm always tweaking it. Like even now, I'm ending my quote unquote like fourth season, and I'm preparing to go into the fifth one. And I'm changing the entire thing for the fifth one because I realized that my current format is just not as conducive as it used to be because it was kind of tailored to people in the pandemic who had a lot more time on their hands. And as we're coming out of it and people are kind of getting back to, I guess, quote unquote normal, um, people have a lot less time than they had when we were all sitting at home. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to, I guess, change the podcast so that it's a little more, I guess, digestible for people who have less time. But I'm also trying to like keep the amount of content the same. So I think I'm going to take my longer episodes and kind of just like cut them up and release like chunks of them over the week. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, I'll tell you this much. It's not entirely scripted for me. I think when I go to write any episode, it's literally just like a list of bullet points. S- Yeah, so I'm yeah, well, I mean, no, some people do like write out a full script, and I know that that's helpful for a lot of people. I don't like it because I feel like it kind of like narrows me. I guess like pigeonholes me too much. I don't want to feel as though like if I think of something on the spot, like oh I can't say it because it's in the script. So well, it's not in the script. So yeah, the bullet point, I guess way of doing things has been the most helpful for me. Yeah, 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 true. Yeah. You know what? Honestly, hosting panels feels like the least stressful thing for me, truthfully speaking. Yeah, I mean, it, well, I mean, I don't have to talk that much. I mean, honestly, when I'm hosting a panel, all I have to do is just be like, "Okay, you're next. Okay, you're next. Okay, that person's not talking that much. You should talk some more." I mean, it's so low stakes, you know? Um, honestly, yeah, so I mean, for me, I'm a podcaster, who is also doing YouTube now, who is also doing, like, some Twitch now, but the independent thought, is my podcast. So like my audio audience is my number one audience. Like I think I have somewhere in the neighborhood of like 1,500 subscribers for the podcast right now. Um Somewhere in that area. It's kind of hard to be exact because Apple Podcasts is where I have like my most traffic from, and they don't give you the best analytics in the world. They definitely don't give you a subscriber count, but you can kind of figure it out if you kind of like work your data a little bit. Um, but yeah, with all that being said, I mean, I figured as I was doing the podcast, I was like, okay, what is like again, it was like me tweaking my approach. I was like, okay, what's the next step? How can I get this podcast out to more people? And I was like, okay, well, YouTube's kind of king, so I should probably do some stuff on there. And then I was like, all right, well, if I'm doing stuff on YouTube, probably good to have some video content. And I'm not used to making video content, so what am I going to do? And then that's when I was like, well, maybe I should have like a lot more guests on, and I'll have the guests, we'll just have video conversations. And then I was like, I'll meet some people on Twitch. And now I'm meeting lots of people through Twitch. And it's all been just like one extension of trying to, I guess, grow the podcast as a whole. And now the podcast is changing from not just being audio, but also being video and also being some streams. And I don't know, it's kind of evolving with me. I'm not really sure what it's going to end up being. I'm kind of just taking it one step at a time. Yeah. I mean, honestly, for me, it was as simple as getting a better mic because my first like I hate to just be that guy, but it ended up being that simple for me. I'm sure that it's different for other people, but for me, I was like my first episodes, I was just talking into like a tablet, like, and so they sucked, right? And then I had like a headset mic, and I used that for a while, and that audio wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. And then I got this thing, which really wasn't that expensive, but, yeah, I mean, it's not like Tom's mic. Tom's got a fucking nice mic. But yeah, but I mean, like, for how much I paid for this, it seems to be very high quality. So it's, which, huge shout out to the people on Patreon who basically bought this mic for me. But, yeah, yeah, it was pretty much that simple for me, but I think kind of going off of the audio, there was one thing about audio that was told to me by another podcaster that I've always kind of held with me ever since he told me this, which was, when people are listening to podcasts, and it's just like the audio, like no video whatsoever. He said that one of the techniques that he would use sometimes would be to like sometimes occasionally just add in a like an intentional pause while he was speaking because for it would like redirect people's attention. So if they weren't paying attention, yeah, if they weren't paying attention, if they were like cutting, if they were like outside trimming some bushes or doing some dishes or whatever, and they're just like casually listening, if you take a pause, people are like, wait, why? Like, did it just end? And so they, their attention like refocuses for a second. So yeah, yeah, Right. Oh, okay. Mm, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. I I think it took me over a year before I could even get to the point where I could stand to listen to myself at all, and then it still bothered me for a long time, and it still semi does. So, yeah, so it hasn't really gone away from me either. I actually refused to listen back to my episodes for a long time, and then until I kinda got to the point where I was like, I think I need to in order to figure out what I'm doing wrong here, or what I can adjust, or what's working and what isn't working, so on and so forth. Yeah, yeah, I was just avoiding it for longer than I should, and I kind of picked up on some things that were pretty obvious, like, I guess my pace. I had too slow of a pace, when I was speaking, and when you're just audio, that can be horrendous, so, had to adjust that. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, no, I know what you mean, and that's something that, like, actually I was talking to my girlfriend about that, and she was kinda mentioning that to me. She was like, "You probably judge yourself harsher than anyone else does," and I was like, "Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, you're not wrong." Yeah. But I'm also I guess when you get into a sphere, not only are you, um, really critiquing yourself overly, but you're also comparing yourself to who you consider to be your peer group, you know? And so I will find myself comparing myself to other people's podcasts and to other like YouTubers now, and now even to other streamers now that I'm kind of like dabbling in three different worlds. So I'm like, okay, like is my podcast getting the same reception as other people's podcasts? Okay, well, why not? Like, what can I do here? So then the criticism just comes like through your head over and over and over again. What are they doing? What am I not doing? Endless rabbit hole. Yeah, No Way Home. Oh, I'm an MCU, like, junkie. Like, I honestly, if I could have it my way, I would have an independent thought news channel, an independent thought sports channel, and an independent thought, like Marvel, DC, and Star Wars channel. Like, those are, like, my 3 that's my holy trinity. I think you can't I can't make a good sports are you okay, I can't make a good sports analogy here, but a rivalry would, like, pertain that there is somewhat of equality. Like, there's, like, a trade-off, like, they win sometimes and they win other times, but you can't have a rivalry when one team dominates. It's not the other person not a rival if they get their ass kicked all the time. And I say that with absolute love for DC because I love DC. I grew up on DC. Yeah, I grew up on DC. I grew up with the all the animated shows, like the Batman animated show, the, like, early 2000s Justice League, even more recently with Young Justice. Um, it's really fucking good, and yeah, go ahead. Yeah, and I watched a lot of those CW shows, even though some of them were awful. So no, I take it all in. But if I'm just being honest and just calling balls and strikes, I mean, DC is not in the same category as Marvel right now. It's not even close. I mean, DC is treading water, hoping that their movies kind of work, where Marvel's like, yeah, we don't have that many movies that don't work. Well, recently, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, I try not to judge myself, but for me, I watch other people in the hopes of learning. I'm like, okay, this person's successful. What are they doing that I can incorporate into what I do? You know? And so, like, but while you're doing that, it's important not to let it become like a, well, you suck because you're not doing these things type of a thing, you know? Yeah. I can't see what you're doing, but yeah. Yeah, you do the work. Yeah. You know, that's the one thing that I feel really unsure about when it comes to streaming. Like, it feels, yeah, well, when it comes to that, it just, and maybe I don't understand this sphere well enough, but I feel as though if you are, it just feels as though Twitch streamers spend too much time streaming. So what I mean by that is, like, if I heard people being like, "Oh, yeah, I'll stream for, like, 8 or 10 hours straight." I'm like, "If I had 10 hours worth of content, that'd be, like, 2 weeks worth of content." You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm just like, "Are you serious? Like, you do that on the daily? Like, that's crazy." I'm just like, it just feels as though the energy output doesn't match, like, I guess, the amount of content you wanna throw out into the world, especially, like, in this current environment where people have such, like, low attention spans. Like, look, if I got 10 hours worth of content, I mean, I'm good for at least 2 weeks, I would assume on YouTube, you know? Yeah. Really? Huh. Okay. Well, you know what? I am up late sometimes, so maybe that's the whole thing. I actually have lots of ideas for streaming content that I've been playing around with, like, in my head, and basically, because I haven't been thinking about doing anything on Twitch for the longest time until just recently. Like, I've had a channel for a while, but I at no point was I like, yeah, I'll go on Twitch and make some content. I was almost just like, oh, I'll go on Twitch if someone invites me on Twitch. But now I'm starting to think about actually creating content specifically, for Twitch. So I got a few different ideas in the pipeline, and I think there's endless content possibilities, especially if you're doing semi, like, reaction type videos where they don't have to be, like, overly, like, performative, but just straight, like, matter of fact. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole different scenario, with both of those. I mean, honestly, for me, I would love to do this whole thing full time, but in order to get to that point, that's gonna be, a lot more work and, a lot more a lot more subscribers on both platforms before I can ever get to that point. Yeah. I mean, there's no reason not to try it. I mean, the worst case scenario is that it doesn't work, and honestly, you'll end up being in a better place than you are right now because in that place, you would know it didn't work versus in this place, you're still wondering if it wouldn't work. It's doing what you were already doing anyway. Um, Sometimes, depending on if I like them or not. I have plenty of things to upload to YouTube, so yeah, I'm not entirely too worried about that going forward. I think right now my main focus is just trying to figure out how exactly I want to format what's next and trying to incorporate all the different aspects of what I want to do. I think just to not to hijack the conversation too much, but one of the things I want to do with my podcast going forward is I want to have just more conversations with people who are, I guess, quote unquote, doing the work. Because like people like that on Twitch and on YouTube, like we're always like talking about like philosophically this is what should happen, and philosophically this is how this should all play out, and so on and so forth. Well, I I made it a point my last season to actually have on people who were running for office. I had about 10 or 11 people come on and who were either running for Congress or running for like mayor or city council, or I think in one case I had a judge come on, or a candidate who was running to be a municipal judge and then got elected to be judge. So now he is a judge. Um, so yeah, and I want to have more of those conversations, but not just politicians, but also people who are working in like the hemp industry, or people who are working in like conservation, people who are working in um, like equity projects, like so on and so forth, and have it not be singularly that, but have that be like an element to it. So it's like I have that as well as like the occasional like panels and my like original like podcast episodes. So it's almost like a little bit of everything so that you could come there and you can find something that you like. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. I would love that. I messaged a hemp company a few weeks ago. I never heard back from them. I actually was planning on messaging a few more in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I'm definitely interested in doing that. I just feel like because the one thing that I get, because I do a lot of DMing with people on Twitter and Instagram. That's been like, I gotta say, if anyone's really trying to figure out how to grow, I think that is like the holy grail of way of growth that doesn't involve money. I think just well, not in the sense of like trying to grow your account for the sake of getting more followers, but as you get followers, like DMing them and talking to them, and having like real conversations with them. I mean, not everyone answers, but enough people do to where it's been worth it. I've built my entire platform that way. I've probably DM'd at least 10,000 different accounts now in the last 2 years. Yeah. 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 I mean, I would adjust my approach if I were you. I'd be like, "I'm not interested currently, but I'd love for you to check out my stream." Yeah. You know what? It is what it is. You know, it is what it is. I mean, honestly, the more important thing is like and this is really what it comes down to, like, at the end of the day. It's like you have to ask yourself, like, do you want to grow? Because I feel as though I've talked to people in the past. I've talked to people like podcasters before, and they'll tell me like, "Oh, I wish that I had like, the follower account that you had or the people checking out my podcast the way you do." And I was like, "Listen, I mean, if you get caught up believing in that whole meritocracy thing, like you will die on that hill. Because if you honestly believe that if I just have really, really good content, then everyone will just magically find me, you are lying to yourself. It's the same lie that people tell themselves where they're just like, if I'm a really, really good worker, my boss will just acknowledge my good work and they will give me a promotion and they will, like treat me better, so on and so forth. And it's just like that doesn't happen that often. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. Oh, no, you're not the only I didn't even know if that was you, but that's so many people I know. It's so many people. Like it's so true. I mean, Twitch is a rare place because Twitch will literally recommend your channel to people. So you have that unique ability on this platform, but YouTube doesn't do that. And social media like accounts, they don't do that. So I mean, it's just like if you want to actually grow, like you have to find different ways to engage. And I realized this really early on because I know certain podcasters who I'm friends with, they have better content than I currently have, like by a long shot. I feel like it's pretty verifiable. Like their content is amazing. Yeah, well, like there's one podcaster in particular I'm thinking. I'm not going to say their name right now, but their content's fucking phenomenal. They do amazing research, in-depth interviews, like in-depth like analysis, put hours and hours and hours of work into this thing, and it gets like no traction whatsoever. And it kind of and that wasn't the only story like that, but that was like one of like many where I was like, this meritocracy thing is bullshit. Because if people like that can't get any traction, then it's not about quality. I mean, it is in a sense, but like it's not the exclusive thing. Like quality is how you keep people, but it's not how you get people, if that makes sense. Right. Right. Yeah. I end up caring about my content that I'm sure more than anyone else would. I mean, I put so much like energy into it throughout the week, and it always feels a little upsetting when I put something out that I spent a lot of time on, and then it doesn't get as well of traction. Like I guess, like for instance, I put out an episode about Joe Rogan, which I put I put a lot of thought into it, but I didn't really care as much about that one. It was more or less just like I knew everyone was talking about it like a month and a half ago. So it just felt like the appropriate moment to kind of give my 2 cents on it. But if I compare that to an episode I did on the concentration camps in China, that one I cared a lot more about and was a lot more vocal about and was relentlessly asking people to check it out. And it felt like it was just like falling on so many deaf ears. And that was crushing because it's such a big issue, like for me, like particularly because the way I was viewing that issue was that like it felt like what not to the exact same extent, but it felt very similar to what black people were going through like in America, like a couple hundred years ago with slavery. Like the way the Chinese are like oppressing these Uyghurs in China right now. And so to watch so many people basically be like, "Oh, whatever." It just was like, I'm sure that's basically how it was before. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're basically doing it right now. You know. Yeah, I mean, it's not like a science. I mean, you're basically just you're creating a conversation that you think other people would be interested in, and then trying to organize it in a way that's digestible, and that's basically the end. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, is that okay? Is that just Blink 182 though? I mean, how many other videos can you think of? Okay, okay. It's like I was like, all right. Well, I mean, if it works, you gotta just keep doing it. Yeah, 1990. Yeah, older millennials here. Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I think the key for things that you're really passionate about is just to not overthink it and also to be honest about what needs to be in it. Like because when I do like an episode, I'll try to like run through it in my head, like how am I gonna say this? How am I gonna say this? And it's honestly, if I'm being truly technical about it, every podcast for me is a verbal essay. So so at the end of the day, when you're thinking about an essay, like you have to think about what your thesis is, right? And so it's like, what is the overall point that you're trying to make? And then everything else that you say after that has to be building towards this point. But yeah, I mean, it's just as simple as like knowing what you want to say before you go to write it all down. So like everything that you're explaining about afterwards, like builds to that point. So that when you get to that point, it makes everything else make sense. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I think you have to go into anything like this just understanding that the beginning is going to be dog shit. Like, truthfully speaking, if you go into this thinking like, "Oh, I'm gonna be great right away," then just don't even start. Yeah, I mean, because like, you're never gonna live up to that expectation. Yeah. I mean, I'm really big about micro goals. Like, micro goals keep me going. Yeah. Yeah, I celebrate every single thing. Like, whenever I get a new follower on Twitch, I get excited. I'm like, "Oh, yesterday I had 31, today I have, like, 32." Like, that's exciting to me. Like, that's exciting to me. I mean, I was definitely that way with Instagram for a long time, when I get any new followers, but then I kinda learned how to, I guess, grow a little bit faster on there now. Um, and that's pretty simple, honestly. It's just a matter of, do you wanna dedicate the time to it? And which again comes down to, what are you using it for? Like, for me, Instagram and Twitter have basically 2 functions. That is, like, building up my podcast space through DMing people, and then being able to DM people again to tell them about, like, new stuff that I got going on, and that's if they don't, like, check out my stories or posts regularly, which a lot of people do, so I don't, like, DM the hell out of them, but I still DM them occasionally. So, hey, you know what? That's great, I love that, see, thank you. It feels as though Twitch is a very tight-knit community, and it also feels like it's a small community. Um, like, smaller than others, because like, a big streamer on here has, like, 5,000 subscribers, and I'm like, "If you have 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, you're still a nobody." Well, I mean followers. But because followers and subscribers are the same thing on Twitch and YouTube, right? They're people who are like who are locked into your channel. Like, you put out content, they see your content, or you know, supposedly. That is that is everything right now. I mean, that's the reason I'm able to still, I think, put the amount of time into it that I'm able to put into it, because this really is a full-time job. Like, I have a full-time job, and then this is also a full-time job. Like, I think I spend, even on like the lowest weeks, I still spend like at least 15 hours a week on like everything. And that's like on like the bare bones weeks. Like, on other weeks, I'll spend 40 hours a week, maybe more. Um, like all things considered, like when I think about like content creation, marketing, networking, um, more marketing. I mean, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I spend so much time talking to people. Like that's how I keep coming back to that, but that's really how I grow everything. I live in my DMs, especially on Instagram. I probably DM like dozens of people like on a daily basis, and then there's some days where it's a lot more. Yeah, you can be that, and some people can make it that way, but it feels like it reminds me of like how this is a really weird analogy, but I remember Jim Carrey talking about how about dealing with like depression, where he was like, I think he said something along the lines of he's like, yeah, you can deal with depression, like I guess like by gritting your teeth, but if you're not, like trying to somewhat exercise and eat right and get sunshine and doing like all these different things, and you're not really giving yourself like you're like fighting this with one arm tied behind your back. Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes it's as simple as just like a really like a couple chains of a small thing. Like I was having a rough time just a few weeks ago. Like I live in the Pacific Northwest, and so we'll have like there's like times out here in Missoula where you can go legitimately like a couple weeks without seeing the sun. And I definitely get affected by that. And so like yeah, yeah, and I've had to find different things over the years to kinda, like, snap myself out of it, which I guess after years of dealing with it, you kinda learn some tricks, but the first couple years that I dealt with it here, it was like, I just did not know how to handle it. I was like, "Wait, we haven't seen the sun in how long? Like, what?" Like Yeah, yeah. Oof. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Who, me? Oh, I've lived in Montana for about half my life. The other half, I lived in Pennsylvania, so I've always lived in the North. So I've always had winter, but, yeah, I lived in 2 different parts of this state now, and the climate is very different in both parts of the state. Apparently, I'm not a geologist, but apparently the continental divide, like, dramatically, like, impacts the climate on both sides of the mountains, and I lived on both sides of the mountains now. So on the eastern side, it is a lot sunnier all the time, but the trade-off is that it's windy as fuck and it's colder. So it's like yeah, so, like, you get your sun, but it's a lot colder and it's windy. But then if you come over here, it's not as cold, like, a lot less cold, but you also have no wind, but there's no sun. So it's like, which version of hell do you want, honestly? Yeah. 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 Hey, hold on one second. Hold on one second. No, no, hold on one second. That is that's really weird. Watch it be somebody I actually know and I just don't have their phone number saved and then I feel like an asshole. Yeah, that'll happen. I don't Yeah, I'm definitely going through it right now. I don't even know like what the I guess this is why you have to try these things out. So I'm like, okay, how do I change this? Hmm. Maybe let me try this. You want to do me a favor? Can you
Mhm.
hop on to Twitch and tell me if you can hear yourself?
I will do that right now. Let me just see. Yes. Yes, I can.
All right, problem fixed. Don't know what I
Beauty.
did wrong, but here we are.
I thought I couldn't for a second, but then I forgot there was a delay. So I was gonna be like, "Oh fuck," but no, we're good.
Yeah, I don't think I wasn't sharing my screen before, so maybe that helps. So I guess the last 50 minutes of talking, they could only hear me. So that's
Hey,
fantastic. I'm sure that was
hey.
a great experience. I won't be see these are the videos I won't be saving.
Well, you did
So
think about it. You just did a podcast.
yeah, where no one could hear the other side of the conversation. Like
It's just a one person podcast. That's all.
who
You
is
know,
Desmond talking to?
it's this new
Um,
concept we're going to where you have to imagine the conversation while only hearing half of it. It's
right.
called interpretation.
Maybe I can also change up. No, that doesn't help. Nope. All right. We're done. We're
That's
done
funny.
here. Oh, here we
That's
go.
that's just so ironic too.
Yeah.
And I was also going to ask you if you were a Star Trek or Star Wars fan, but you kinda answered that one for me.
Yeah, definitely Star Wars. Definitely Star Wars.
More of the action fan?
I just never got into Star Trek. I don't know what it was. I just like it never grabbed me. Um
I hear that a lot.
yeah, I don't know. I've also never, like, felt the need to really try to watch things because a bunch of other people liked it. Like,
I
people tell me all
entirely
the
agree
time,
with
they're
you.
like, "Oh, you have to watch this show or that show, like, so many people like it. This is great, blah, blah, blah." I'm just like, "Yeah, I don't fall into those that often." It's like, I've always been told that I should watch Star Trek, but I don't know, it didn't grab me, so I didn't, like, force it.
Hell yeah. I'm the last person to ever tell someone they should watch something unless I know it's down their wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And you saying, yeah, you gave it a fair shot, there's no more I could ask of you. If you don't like it, you don't like it. My roommate cannot grasp the idea I don't like One Piece.
Mm.
I just don't like it. I don't know, it's the animation, maybe it's some of the designs, I don't know. Not my I don't dislike it, I just don't particularly enjoy it. I like my Dragon Ball Z, it's just punchy, punchy, laugh, laugh, we're good.
I
That's
was
all I care
literally
about.
watching Dragon Ball Z last night.
Damn it, I knew we were gonna be friends. I grew up on that shit and I still
Yeah,
watch it.
the nostalgia is strong. I used to rewatch it in its entirety, like, once a year, every year.
I
Um,
started to do that too.
I stopped
It's
doing
so
it
feel
just
good.
a couple years ago, but I just started, I guess, basically doing it again, just a couple, like, weeks ago. I'm on season 3 now, but,
To be fair, I do rewatch Abridged every once in a while, but that's just 'cause it's like high tier comedy.
yeah. I have a lot of shows that I rewatch. I don't know what it is. I'm the kind of person where I very rarely watch new things. I rewatch a lot of things. I do watch new shows, but just not that often. Just not that
They all
often.
tend to kinda go the same direction.
I
Like
don't know
this
what it is. I've just gotten more and more selective on what I'll give my time to. So,
yeah, I've noticed that too. I think it's we have more free selection now. Like
yeah,
when we were kids, it was whatever the fuck was on TV you were
basically.
watching. You
Yeah,
had 15 channels mostly, so it was like, yeah, whatever was on, you were watching.
right.
And then 10 years later, it was whatever CDs you've burned, that's what you're watching. I used to have, like, 4 or 5 of those big folders full of them.
Oh
So
my
proud of that.
god. Yeah.
Nowadays, no.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I've got YouTube, Twitch, I can go on fucking Twitter if I wanted to and find a million things to watch. It's it's there's an actual term for this, I can't remember it, my camera is actually dying, so I'm turning that off real quick, but where it's like, you're kind of killed by the amount of choice that you have, to where you never feel satisfied because you know there's always something else to look at or something else that could be cool or something else that could be funnier. So you're always just looking for something that pings your brain a little bit more, and it's less our fault and more just how much shit's out there. Same with music again. There's just everyone is so insanely niche in their music taste now, to where it's not like, oh man, what music do you listen to? And they're like, rock music. No, they'll give me the specific fucking album from a specific fucking band that they listen to. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're that person. Go over to this person. Oh no, I only listen to Korean pop music. Okay, that's incredibly specific, but you be you.
That's is
Is
incredibly specific.
Oh, the K-pop fans are religious. Do not talk shit about K-pop.
Well, no, my whole thing is like I could never subject myself to one genre of music. Like that
Yeah,
seems so
same.
bizarre. To be so monolithic about it, be like, I only listen to this genre. I mean, myself, like personally, I think I listen to maybe like 3 or 4 genres. So it's not like I have like a wide range, but I can never tell myself like, yep, I'm only listening to hip hop for the rest of my life. I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
I couldn't do that.
people do it with, movies too, like any kind of art form. Like,
Yeah.
my roommate has a bad habit of only watching anime. I'm
Mm.
slowly getting him out of that. It's like, "Please, just for the love of God, watch something else. I wanna bring people over too, and I don't need to explain why there's, like, weird little girl noises coming from your room."
That's pretty good.
But when I was growing up, I was one of these very niche people, what you would call a metalhead or an elitist, as you might refer to it. Where
Oh,
the
with your
Yes.
metal music?
Oh, yes, I was so sure of myself back then.
Yeah.
It was the only thing that was worth listening to because it was the only genuine music out there. Of course, now I've spread my wings, you might say, and I've accepted things. And I find it to be, at least in my experience, and this can apply to things well beyond music, it was dropping my own shell. It wasn't suddenly dropping standards, it was just not being hateful.
Mm.
That might be in a bit of an extreme word, but it was kind of just letting it in, you know?
Yeah.
Letting it happen and not sitting there judging it. Like, I remember my mother when I was a kid, she hated 80s music, but only stereotypical 80s music. You know what I mean? Like disco music. I
Mm.
could show her a band from the 80s that sounded like rock and she'd be fine. But
Yeah.
no, no, no. Disco music. I think the one biggest victory in my life is if I could get her to listen to a disco song and actually enjoy it, I can die a happy fucking man. Like I've achieved something in my life at that point.
Okay.
But
All right.
music to me is like a window into people's souls in a sense,
Yeah.
especially with how honest you are about it. Like, I'll tell you the most embarrassing shit I listen to because I'm open about it. A lot of people won't be. Like, there's this group,
I
and
won't be.
so
I'm not gonna lie to you. I
on a
definitely
certain
won't
level,
be.
it's okay. Don't worry about it. It is
Yeah.
okay. Like, I'll straight up say there's a group, and it's embarrassing to even say the fucking name. It's called Baby Metal, and it's
Okay.
I only imagine what your brain forms, and it's probably about 50% that.
You know,
But
I'm not
it's
really judgmental when it comes to other people's music.
oh,
I
no.
mean, I guess I was judgmental about the whole fact about like narrowing yourself to one genre, but it's like
Yeah,
when it comes to what
yes.
people listen to, like I'm just like, hey man, like you do you. That's how I feel
No,
about it.
that's good. That's like you're further up the ladder on maturing on these sort of things, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I think the peak level is just where you say music is good, you know? You don't really have to define it more than that. Just
Yeah.
there's a lot of good music. Some's not quite as good, but, it's music still, whatever. And I can appreciate almost anything now except country music, but almost all of it's good.
You know what? Honestly, that mentality for me has been pretty ubiquitous, like across the board, not just with music, but basically all of life. And that honestly
Good.
completely stems from living in this town. When I moved to
Really?
Missoula, Montana, it was such a it was such a weird shock of a culture to come to this place. And that was after already living in Montana for 5 years, but moving to this specific town in Montana. It was so different than anywhere else I'd ever been before that I just did not know how to handle it. And then for like the first year, like everything about this place just weirded me the fuck out. But then
Well,
after a
for
while, I kind of just started referring to anything that weirded me out. I was like, oh, that's just Missoula. And, just weird Missoula stuff. And then about another year later, which is kind of where I transitioned to where I'm still currently at, is like, you know what? Just do you. Whatever makes you
just do
happy,
you.
just do you. As long as it's not
Yep,
as long as it doesn't directly
yep.
affect me, do you.
Oh, I
That's
can't agree
just
more.
yeah. That's how I feel about these things. I'm like, "Hey, you wanna do X, Y, and Z? Like, live your
A
life,
as long
man.
as it doesn't
Be happy."
affect me, I don't give any fucks.
Yeah,
I
be
don't.
happy.
Yeah.
I can't get so tied up with people who are like who get, like, very, like, worked up about how someone else is living their life. I'm like, "Does that
Yeah.
affect you in some way?"
Are they breaking the law? No, then
Well,
why
it's
do I
like,
care?
oh, they wear their hair like this, oh, they dress like that, or they talk like, does that
Uh,
affect you?
yeah, they look fabulous. What about it?
Who cares? Like, I just
And it
I don't know.
and I think the biggest part for me about getting over that sort of thing was stop
Yeah.
judging myself first. And I've been
Yeah.
talking to I have 3 roommates. I keep bringing up my roommate. This is a different one.
Mm.
Basner is his name. Well, me and him have been talking a lot, and I've been trying to help him open up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And one of the key things is we both have these long robes that we wear around the house when we're just, chilling out. And I'll wear my robe to the store
Yeah.
if I'm just like walking to pick up like sugar or something. I don't give any fucks. People that have like kind of looked at me a little weird, like I'm middle of winter, I've got a coat and a fucking bathrobe hanging down.
Oh my god.
I don't care what anyone says. My legs were toasty warm. That was actually a good idea. I was so warm for that walk.
Oh my
Anyways,
no, no, I'm sorry. I got that text and it was definitely someone I knew and I just didn't save their number.
told you, it had to have been. There's no way
Oh
someone's
my
that casual with
god.
just a random message. That's funny.
Oh my god. One
Well,
second,
hey,
one
it's a
second.
test stream. Oh, you're fine, you're fine.
Well, there it is. Definitely feel like a jackass. Gonna save that number now so that that doesn't happen again.
That person's gonna live on in my brain for years.
You know what?
Ugh.
I actually, well, it's my friend Daniel Wilson. Daniel, um,
Congratulations, Daniel. You now have free real estate in my brain.
Daniel was actually on my panel just on Sunday for the
Oh,
gas
really?
prices debate. Yeah,
Which
Daniel's. I
what's he go
actually,
by?
yeah. Oh, well, that's by his name.
Oh god dang it. Oh fuck, of course.
Well, no, Daniel is actually running for office in California.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I forget what the I have it somewhere, but I can forget it right now. But he's running for state assembly. I just forget what district it is in the state, but out of Ventura County in California.
I wish
So
him luck.
yeah, yeah, I should have the video up either tonight or tomorrow. This video takes forever to render and to like upload, but I still gotta make the thumbnail for it too. But yeah, yeah, it was good debate, good conversation. Tad too long for my liking. Think we'll try to like shorten it up next time, or maybe have one less panelist. I think that probably would have been the sweet spot. But
Do you have like an is there an ideal time, like an hour, hour and a half you're kinda hit? Trying to hit?
I mean, I was hoping not to go past 2.5, which
Yeah,
it only slightly did. It was like 2:45. But I think being the moderator, I was really, I guess, like focusing on everyone else on the panel. And there was a lot of like shifting and a lot of people like really wanting to talk more, and I had to cut a lot of people off. And you know,
hey, when you got a good topic, I mean,
true, but I'm the kind of person where I'm like, I like it when it's very conversational in the sense where like you don't have to really moderate it that much. Like when you were on
mm,
like like a week and a half ago on that Saturday panel, having like the six
yeah.
of us, that was incredibly fluid. Like I didn't really
Yeah,
need to
that
do
went really,
any
really well.
moderating whatsoever on that one. But when there's 8 people, it felt more challenging. So I was like, well, maybe 8's too much. So maybe 7's the new max. But I'm just gonna keep playing with it.
8 does strike me as a lot, but I've never hosted, but I can
Yeah.
see where you're coming from. And 2 hours, I think honest to God, that sounds appropriate. Even when I've watched, like, viewer counts for stuff like Hippy Dippy or some other,
Yeah.
like, smaller debates, that'll go on for, like, 4 or 5 hours. Their viewer count plummets before halfway through that, 'cause the actual topics people care about have been talked about. The only time it really doesn't play out that way is when you've got a screaming match, and
Right.
I don't want part of that anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. The ones that we did, which I think ended up being actually, let me just go take a look here. I got them both on YouTube now.
I
Um
think we kept it under 2 hours.
yeah, are you on my YouTube channel?
Yes,
Okay. Let's
I
see
believe
here.
so. Shit, am I
Okay.
gonna be a jackass now?
Okay, so the one that we did was like an hour 22.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty quick, actually.
And then the one where I had 7, we went to 11, which is still pretty good as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's still in the nice time frame because I find, like
Yeah.
imagine yourself going to Twitch, you probably don't have, like, 4 or 5 hours of free time.
No.
You probably have a couple, you know?
No. Yeah.
Like,
Uh
I
s-
guess oh,
so
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so I think that's probably that's probably the sweet spot going forward. I think having it like be like a maximum of like 7 people. So I guess like 6 guests and then me the moderator. Um that's probably
That
where I'm
would
going
make
to
it
keep it from
easy
now
to
on.
a nice round number like that makes it easy to cut up too. You can cut it into quarters, like half an hour chunks, and use those for YouTube. Plus,
Yeah.
the longer videos, the more watch time, the more revenue, the more recommendations you'll get. So if you post the like 30 minutes over 10 minutes, it'll work better in the algorithm.
Yeah, I tried making some clips of a previous panel I did. They didn't do
Mhm.
so hot. So I figured
Yeah.
for and I you know what, every audience is different, but I figured if I start clipping up like the long conversations into smaller clips again, I'll probably just wait till I have a bigger audience. And so that maybe the people who come in the future will be more interested because the people currently haven't been as interested. So it's gotta curate to your own audience. That's another one of my tips.
Yes.
What works for one person's audience may not work for yours because everyone's audience is unique. So
True.
just figure out what works for the people who come to your channel.
Have you tried sacrificing a goat to the gods of YouTube yet?
No, I haven't quite figured out YouTube's algorithm yet.
Yeah,
Um,
me neither.
it um, it does
It
seem to be
seems
very specific in what it requires, and I haven't quite figured out exactly how to like make it really work in the search results. Like
mm,
I watched plenty of videos where they were like, okay, you have to basically do like lots of keyword research because you have to make sure your
ugh,
tags are all good to go, so on and so
I
forth.
hated those videos.
And
I hated them so much.
yeah, and I was like, I went through that for a little while and I played with it quite a bit. And I'm just like, you know what? It kind of works, but not really. Like, I mean, like you might get some people that way, but not really. So,
No.
or at least if I miss maybe I missed something, but either way, I haven't quite figured out the golden, I guess, like yeah, I haven't figured it out yet. So, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
On a certain level, I'm kinda happy. Well, in my personal opinion, I don't know if you would agree with this, but I'm kinda happy to not be to almost be struggling in the beginning because it gives me time to get the kinks worked out.
Yeah.
I can learn these things, get a little better before I've got a whole bunch of eyes on me, so that
Yeah.
once I do, I can shine a little bit more. Try to
Yeah.
glass half full about it as much as possible.
Absolutely, and if you wanna come on mine a little more often, we can definitely do that. I mean, in
Sure.
fact, I mean, I don't really have that many people who watch me either. Like, I mean, if you go on my stream right now, I think
Oh,
2 people are
least of my
watching.
concern.
I have 31 followers. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I treat this basically as, like, practice. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone's really watching. The 2 people who are watching me might be bots for all I know. I mean, they're not
Yeah,
chatting,
that's a
so
I don't understand how Twitch does that, that's weird.
yeah, they
Like,
might be
you ever seen the
bots, so
users in
they might
chat and
be
it's,
no
like, the
one.
weirdest names?
Yeah.
Like, I've had one viewer on Twitch, but I go to my users in chat and it's, like, 15 names. And I'm sitting here, "What the hell does that mean?"
Yeah, that is kinda weird. I've seen that before too, where it'll be like, "You have 2 viewers." You click on your viewers, and then there's, like, 7 names there, and you're like, "That's more than 2. Who are
And
these
they're like,
people?"
some random ass fucking people too.
Yeah, they're like, "How did they find me?" Like, "That's
Yeah,
weird.
like it's like,
Alright."
okay, these have to be bots, but you click on the account and they have an actual account with actual followers and there's some like
Right.
actual activity on it. So I'm so confused.
Yeah,
Like right
no,
now, I
it
have
is a little
Bing
weird.
Cortana.
Yeah, I guess I also have someone watching me on YouTube right now. Oh, that's where
Sexy.
these chats have been coming in. Oh, okay. Someone was like, "I've been chatting to you, and you haven't been responding." They were chatting to me on YouTube.
Let me guess, that's the same person that texts you.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking Sherlock Holmes. Ugh.
Okay. D
Elementary, dear Watson.
Yeah,
Dear
yes,
Max.
Kenneth Epps, it is the blue dot and the red state. I guess also Bozeman kind of falls into that category too, and Butte, strangely enough. Um, yeah, okay. Well, I guess since people are watching me on YouTube, I guess I'll just hang out over here.
Hello, YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's pretty weird. Okay. So, yeah, I guess anyway, I guess what I was trying to say was, yeah, if you want to do this a little bit more often, we can definitely do that. I
Yeah.
have no problems whatsoever coming on and yeah, just shooting the shit. I mean, I don't think that many people will be watching anyway, so it's a great way to do some practice and kind of get
Yeah.
more comfortable and yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, why
If you
not?
need like people for podcasts or it's a topic that I got something to say, like the oil thing, I honestly I wouldn't know. I'd probably just be agreeing with everyone else for the most part. So I thought, I might not be the best for that.
Right.
But yeah, I love coming on. And you're definitely welcome to come on, on my channel. This is honest to God almost exactly what I want to do with my channels, have these very like person to person kind of interactions.
Right.
And to be honest, this you could call it practice. This was almost homework for me in a sense. Like, as far as I'm concerned, you're much more experienced in this realm than I am. So just hearing some words for you that resonate with what I'm thinking just validates me, you know?
Yeah, that's
And
fine. I mean, honestly, like if you have other questions, I could try to answer that for you too. Actually, just 1 second here. Now that I'm
not you.
actually on
That's pretty much
YouTube, I see you, Angry Hobo 212.
it.
Feel
Angry
free
Hope.
to keep lurking in the shadows. That's pretty funny.
I used to have a character on I think it was Red Faction 2 that I called Angry Hobo. That's a fucking flashback. Oh my God. Yeah, we're old. We're very
Yeah.
old.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, with the gas prices thing, I didn't have like a dissertation for that either. I basically just had like a couple points that I wanted to make. I mostly just wanted to see if other people wanted to talk about it, you know? So, and I
Yeah,
think that's probably how I'm
yeah.
gonna like treat it going forward. I'm like, hey, this is a topic that seems to be pretty much in the news right now. Let me see if I can't find some people who have strong opinions on it, and then we'll just kind of let it go from there because I know that people are talking about it right now, like the everyday people. So see if I can't
I
find
just
some other people
I
to
don't know, I guess I assume
chop it
that
up
there'd
with
be,
me.
like, some passion around it, like, I would understand people, like, legitimately being upset over this and
Yeah,
having some I wouldn't say angry, I'm not trying to imply angry or, like, division or anything like that, but just passion, you know? In
right.
which case, I feel like I'd be the one person that was like, "Oh, uh," just, like, completely derail the whole situation.
I think when you're on a panel with enough people, you can kind of riff off other people, you know?
True.
So I think like in that particular panel, it felt like there were a couple people who were more or less like giving like a bulk of the input, and then everyone else was kind of like more or less just playing off of them. Not because they didn't have anything to say, but because by the time they got to them, everything had been said. So,
You said all the things, man.
which is
Yeah, that
fine. I
yeah,
think I
that happens, it just happens.
yeah, no, it's part of being on panels, and so
Mhm.
I think we're gonna try to figure out a way to make it more equitable in the future. But yeah, well, figure it out little by little. I think it's just like
Hmm.
I think it's like more or less just a trial and error type thing, which is basically the same story for all of this.
I wish I had more to say. I know that I keep thinking back to like Dylan Burns when it comes to this because he's like clearly a wonderful example. But in his Discord, I've seen him put out ads for people looking for a debate specifically to be on one side or the other of a topic. Like he'll land out a topic and be like, I need people that are on this side and I need people that are on this side.
Right, because
So it's
it
not
makes
just
for the
like,
best like content when you have
yeah,
opposition.
like
Because I've had
they
people
try
tell
to
me that
even it out.
themselves. They're like, "Hey, like I liked your panel, but like it was like everyone was just agreeing with each other," and I was
Well,
like,
sometimes that's just the objective correct thing.
and I'm like, yeah, no, I get that how that might not be entertaining, but it's also like, I guess for me putting these things together, I don't always have these people who I can just like pluck and be like, hey, I know you feel
Yes.
this way about this thing. I need you to come here and talk to me about it. It's like I don't have that, I guess that I guess
That
catalog that I can
resin
just go into and just be like, hey, I was going to pull out X, Y, and Z person for A, B, and C issue because I know that they'll provide the dissenting opinion on this. When I
Mhm.
was doing this in the beginning, it was like whoever I could agree to get to come on this thing, you know?
Yeah, I totally get that, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just like, well, if I'm, thankful enough that I can get someone to come on, then here we go. Yeah.
And I don't see that as a problem either, like, the discussion we had about Ukraine, it went really smoothly. No one I'm not surprised at all. It's kinda hard to find someone that would legitimately take the opposite side that we all took in that discussion,
I think
but it
one
was good
person
because
wanted to, and they didn't feel
yeah.
comfortable doing it. I actually, you probably didn't
Really?
see this, but in my Sunday panel, like the one that went 211,
Mhm.
um, I mentioned that right in the beginning of the panel. Maybe that might have been cut out of the actual like VOD, but I had
That is
mentioned
light
that I was
bully.
like, "Hey, I think one person last night didn't feel comfortable voicing their true opinion. So, if you're the one lone voice, don't feel afraid to have the dissenting opinion."
Yeah, it would've been fine.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
Well,
was
someone mentioned afterwards, they were like, "Yeah, I kind of felt this way, but everyone else was against it, so I just didn't want to say anything." And I was like, "You should have said something." But,
well, no, like, there is always another side to things, and it's definitely good to have someone that does bring up this slightly different view as long as it isn't, like, uh, from both sides, in fact, where there isn't some kind of antagonistic side to it.
yeah.
But even with the discussion we were having, there's no way that would have happened. We were more just trying to explain the situation in more details to each other and anyone who might be listening, which is very fucking useful in and of itself, you know?
No, absolutely. And I think what was the case? This past panel that we had, Jebtan was on, and he was basically like the lone dissenting opinion about why the gas prices were going up and what the solutions were and so on and so forth. And it was basically like 1 on 6. And he kind of just stood his ground the whole time.
You gotta
Um,
kind of respect it.
you know what? I gave him some props during and afterwards, and other people did as well. They were
Yeah,
like, "Thank you for being like," because obviously, like he's a conservative, and I think it was like the one streamer Carr had mentioned he was like, "Hey, I appreciate you, having this conversation in good faith, even though you're conservative and you feel a different way, so on and so forth." And
love it.
yeah, it's like I normally don't have those kind of interactions with conservatives on here, so which ideally is the perfect kind of conversation that I want to like curate. I think only in the future I'd want to have maybe like two more. So maybe like it's somewhat be half and half, but it kind of comes into what I was talking about before, where it's like I can't just like pluck conservatives out of the ground and be like, hey, I
Yeah,
know a few of these people. Like you must come on all
especially
my
in this
panels now.
like Twitch, specifically like for conservatives here, it's a
Yeah.
ghost town. You'll never find them on Twitch.
There I
Even
mean,
like some of the bigger ones are like, I don't know, 50 viewers.
the ones that I do find seem to be very performative. Like it almost feels like that they're actually
Yes.
just treating this like it's a soap opera or like it's like WWE or like it just like I don't know if they are even truly being serious about how they feel. It feels
Some do
just
feel more
so
like a
over the
character, yeah.
top, you know? But
Like,
Jeptan, he seems legitimate and he was being very fair about his feelings, even though he disagreed with basically everyone else in the panel. He was
honest to God, he
respectful
sounds
about
better
it.
than 90% of others already.
Yeah, he was respectful about it, which is the perfect thing that I want. Because like
Yeah,
when people are hearing these conversations in their own echo chambers online, like either you're in a right-leaning echo chamber or a left-leaning echo chamber. That's just how our like social media algorithm overlords have kind of like boxed us in. And
yep.
so I would love to have people be able to put their arguments both on Main Street so that you can finally hear like the actual opposition, not like the caricature that you hear like through our like different media channels.
It it's gonna be hard to actually ever achieve that in a sense, because like, every time I go into a Discord channel that's
Yeah.
meant for, like, political discussion where they specifically advertise the whole, "We're both sides here, we keep things chill." It's the literal opposite of that, and it's one side or the other, and they pitchfork anyone who comes in that is the opposite side of them. So, tribalism's a problem, yeah, I don't know what else to say other than it's just a fucking problem. And it comes in a lot of different forms, be it politics, whatever fucking street you live on, what music you listen to.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I've
it's
always
it's really
agreed with the
weird.
idea.
It's also weird to me that how people I guess like we get so caught up in these echo chambers that some people actually forget that they're in one.
Oh, yeah, it seems so normal to hear one opinion all the fucking time that as soon as you don't, you react way over the top to it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna name names, but I spoke
Mhm,
with somebody who was gonna be on a panel months ago, and they live in a different part of the country. I think they live like down in like either like I think it's in Oklahoma. And
okay.
they had mentioned that they were like, yeah, nobody actually really wants to defund the police. I don't even know where that comes from. And I'm like, wait, why do you say that? And he's like, oh, like no one actually means that. And I was just like, I know a lot of
Oh,
people who mean that. And he was just
Yeah,
like, "Well,
yeah,
nobody I know." Like, it's like, "Are you serious?" Like he was actually surprised that I knew people who wanted to defund the police. And in that moment, it kind of dawned on me. I was like, "Wow, like your social media or like just like generally like life ecosystem is so different than mine that you were convinced that the whole defund the police slogan was like, I guess, like not really that big of a deal." Because
yeah.
it's a
They
pretty big
exist in
deal
a
where I
totally different
live.
world. Like, I
Yeah,
experienced this when I moved to I live in Ottawa now, which is, as
the
far as I'm
capital.
concerned, a massive city. It's about 1 million
Yeah.
people-ish, which compared to like an American city, that's not terribly big. For us, it's like top four.
Well, to be fair, there's only 10 cities in America that have 1,000,000 people.
Actually,
Yeah.
okay, I didn't realize that. I thought that number would be a lot higher.
Nah,
But
well,
I'm
I guess if you think about like metropolitan area, but I
like
mean
New
like
York to
just
me
like
is like
city limits. You know what I mean?
well, I guess it's the fact that like whenever I think of the difference, I just get reminded of the fact that New York State has more people than my entire country.
That's not true.
Well, let
California
me check.
does.
Let me double check here because this was like a joke that we would use quite
California is the only
often.
state that we have in our country that's bigger than Canada. But that's still that
Oh
is
my
a
God! Wait
state
a minute.
though. Yeah, California has close to 40,000,000 people. Canada's around like 38
Holy
million
shit!
people.
New York has far less people than I thought. Okay, you are right. Yeah, New
Yeah.
York's at like 8.5 million. All right, well, California, there. That we'll change the joke slightly.
Yeah. But yeah, no, California has more people than Canada.
So the what I was getting to there was I moved from a very small town. I'm not
Yeah.
going to mention the name of the town. It doesn't really matter. It's like 30,000 people.
Right.
Really small. I grew up on the outskirts of that town too, on a highway surrounded by farms. So I had a very country style upbringing. My
Right, right.
favorite my favorite thing to do was just go out in the woods and do whatever. I'd bring a hatchet with me and
Yeah.
make a trail. Usually I would get bloodied along the way, but it was fun. So when I did move to a big city, I had a lot of thoughts in my head of what to expect. When you're in a small town, you're raised with this idea that there's this rivalry between small towns and big towns. That
Yeah.
for some reason, small town people don't like big town people, and big town people don't like small town people. And it's played out as this really visceral fucking thing. Where like if somebody from, let's just say, my hometown, Toronto was the nearest like big city.
Yeah.
If someone from Toronto showed up, they might get jumped. I'm not even kidding to that. Of course, we're talking like teenagers, young adults. If you're older, then you're older and you've got your shit to take care of.
Yeah, I
But
was gonna
yeah,
say,
that
but yeah.
level of like hate. And so me going to a big city, I'm expecting to run into this, right? If not a little worse. Because the idea is that, oh yeah, people from these cities see us small town people as dirty rednecks, you know? We're all stupid. We haven't experienced the world or whatever. Holy fuck, was I wrong?
Yeah, I
I
had
get to a
the
big city.
exact opposite thing going from the big city area coming to a place like this, which is still like the second biggest city in my state, but
Mhm.
like the metro area of Missoula, so like the city and then like the 20 miles
Missoula.
around it, is 120,000 people.
That's not bad, that's not bad.
It's the second biggest place in Montana. So, I
Yeah, I can
mean,
understand that feeling, yeah.
yes, I mean, like, there's a lot of much smaller places in Montana, and, but honestly, this is a good size for me. Like, I probably could
Yeah.
live somewhere slightly bigger, um, like Spokane, which is, like, a couple hours to my west in Eastern Washington, but, I don't think I ever wanna go back to a big city again. Like, growing up in
Really?
Philadelphia, like, every time I go back to the East Coast now, and I'm, like, back in that, like, megalopolis, it's just not for me. Like, I didn't realize it because the first couple of years I left there to come here, I always dreamed about going back there, and then,
Mhm.
yeah, that was my reality for, like, a few years. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna go back," and then, honestly, by the time, like, I had been here for, like, 5 or 6 years, like, I was actually like, "You know what? I don't wanna go back." Like, life is just more simple here. It's better. Like, it's just better for me. Like, I don't like, there's trade-offs for sure, but the things that I'm leaving behind, I don't need anymore.
Okay, fair enough. Couple things.
Yeah.
One, I guess it would be fair to mention that my hometown is notoriously shit place to live. For a town of like,
Yeah,
I'm not even kidding, it's fucking bad. For about, it's probably about 45,000 people now. I haven't lived there for like 4 or 5 years,
yeah.
but it, for a very small town, we had the highest crime rate in the entire country. I- And for the longest time, we just thought there was something going wrong in the town. No one told us what these crimes were, where they were coming from. We just knew we had the highest rate. It went around as like a meme. I
Yeah.
find out a few years later, hilariously enough, it was one person.
What?
Yeah, yeah. One person managed to raise the crime rate of our entire goddamn city. And I mean, it makes you wonder, how? How did this fucking guy pull it off? Well, it turns out he was a serial flasher. And you could just imagine the amount of time and effort this man put in.
There's a
And
lot of
you,
stereotypes about Canada, but what you
yeah,
just said is
yeah. I'm not a word of what I'm saying is a lie to you.
well, no, it's like people always in America think of Canada as like this like super nice place that has like basically no crime.
I imagine he
And
was
so
polite
you're
when he
just
was
like,
showing his
and you're
penis,
like,
but
yeah, the highest crime rate in the whole country was the guy who just like went around flashing people. I'm like, that's crime.
well, I mean, it is kind of like sexual assault, and the cops would register it. I'm just laughing because that's the fucking thing. Like, no, it's not robberies. It's not fucking thefts, assaults. No, it's some dude going around flashing. And
Yeah.
then you have to imagine how much effort this man put in. That's like 30, 40,000 fucking people he had to attribute for. And he beat out Toronto. He beat out Vancouver almost
Oh
single
my
fucking
god.
handedly. I am more impressed by this man than I am upset. Like, you are
Yeah, I
industrial,
think that really just shows again, just
and
yeah,
that's my hometown.
crime, the what we call crime anyway. So
True, right?
yeah, that's hilarious.
But yeah, my town does have a very, very bad rep for a lot of different reasons. I could go into a lot of the reasoning. There's a lot of it's hearsay, like, small town rumors and that kind of shit about like, oh yeah, they just send all the bad people from the big cities here. I swear to God, that talk is actually going on in these towns. But it's like real country towns. That's why I always say, like, man, small towns are surprisingly racist. It just depends on which ones you go to. The one I was in, oh hell yeah, it was terrible. Oh,
Yeah.
I was lucky. I grew up beside a reserve, Tyendinaga, Mohawk Reserve. I was very close to a lot of people that were on there, and there was one family that was nice enough to actually give me room and board for about a year and a half. I lived
Mm,
on the reserve about a year and a half, and it gave me a chance to experience other things as well, and realize how fucking bad things really were.
yeah.
And I don't want to go too far into the details because we're not having that kind of a discussion, but yeah, some things will upset you. That there's a lot of things that go on up here that we just don't talk about. Like
Right.
you said, there's this concept of Canadians being one way or another. We are literally the same as you. We just have an
No,
accent and a fear of
I
fucking.
imagine that. Yeah, I mean, I imagine people are basically the same across the
Yeah,
board, especially
the,
especially when you're comparing like other like I guess developed nations or first world
well,
nations. What is the appropriate way to say that, honestly?
I don't really know. I struggle with that too. Just developed
Yeah,
nations, I guess.
I guess
I'm not gonna call you. I don't know.
westernized nations,
Sure, not recently blown up ones.
former British colonies. I guess you still are.
Hey, 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 hey. We only are because 'cause we're polite about it, all right?
I was blown away. I don't know the exact specifics on this, but that the Queen actually still has some like dominion over Canada.
Oh, technically, yes.
Like, how does like
Technically.
I don't understand it. Like, how does Canada not have its full independence?
We do. It's almost like we're just being polite about it because she could use this power, and
Yeah,
I'd put any amount of money the government would just go, "Huh, cute," and just ignore it entirely. Because like, what the
yeah,
fuck is she gonna do? Declare war on us? No.
yeah.
Well, the way it works is there's a position in the government called the Governor General, who technically has more power than the fucking Prime Minister. And she is the go-to for the Queen.
Right,
And that's all this person does, is just the liaison for the Queen. The Governor General has literally never done anything the entire time the position has existed, because the Queen has never used the power. So the Governor General literally just sits there getting paid to do fuck all. If you
right.
ask me, it's the greatest job on the face of the earth. You, there's nothing. You do fucking nothing. But
Hey, I mean, can't be
uh,
mad about it, I guess.
no, no, I think it's an appropriate position, all in all, considering. but I have no reason to believe that any of us would do anything the queen would ask. I also heard rumor that she might have died, but I'm not gonna pass that around too much.
I think if
Anyways,
she did, we'd all know about it.
well, you know what? Twitter's no source for this sort of thing. That's why I'm always like, I don't know. But there was
Yeah,
a
you
apparently she
wouldn't be
caught
able to
COVID,
escape
so
that news. I'm pretty
that is
confident in
true.
that. Yeah.
I don't understand the obsession some people have around with the royals. Like it's
I do not understand any of it, like,
mm-mm,
literally none of it.
mm-mm.
I
I
don't
understand Kim Kardashian obsession more than I do the queen.
Yeah, it almost feels and I don't live there, so I can't speak to it firsthand, but
True.
it feels almost um, like a
Yeah, like they've been
manufactured, like,
forced to do this
obsession
year
in
after
order
year.
for a family to maintain power that it shouldn't have anymore.
They have no political power. They're just a rich fucking family now. That's
Yeah,
pretty
you're a
much it.
figurehead who siphons off millions, if not billions, of taxpayer money every year for reasons that no one can explain. I mean, we have some pretty loopy corruption here in the US, but that one's
That's
also
that's
pretty loopy.
that's probably the most blatant example of just like fucking corruption of the highest order that's like weirdly benign. Like they're
It's
not
just a
sitting there doing
symbolic. You're a
yeah.
symbol who
It's this
gets
cheery old fucking lady sitting in this really nice fucking house, but we're like, that's still fucked up.
and yeah, heads of state have to go and spend time with them every time they make
Yeah.
a trip over to the
It's weird that
UK.
my prime minister has to go there and like kiss her hand and just frail woman that has no fucking power. All right, fine, have fun with that.
Yeah, and the prime minister of that country has to go and meet with the queen pretty
Yeah.
consistently, and I don't know,
What the
like,
hell?
I don't know. Again, I'm probably speaking out of my ass, just maybe there's, a legitimate reason for it. There's a legitimate reason for why the queen still has so much power. Maybe she has
Well, s
actual power.
historically, there is, like, a one
Yeah,
specific reason, but it's never that fucking simple, especially when it comes to, like, history, it's always like, "But a million other things affected that, and to explain those would take about 3 weeks." I don't think you have
yeah,
that time,
yeah,
which is why
yeah.
I love history.
So I'm not really sure about all that, but, there is I probably am gonna oops,
Oh,
sorry
I do
about
that a
that.
lot.
Um, I probably am gonna have to jump off here in a minute,
Oh, no, you're fine.
but,
This actually went on a little longer than I was actually expecting to. It's been a very pleasant conversation.
yeah, there's a couple of things I wanted to ask you before we got out of here.
Shoot.
Um, so I guess the first thing is, are you like an
Mhm.
MCU nerd at all?
That's a very good question. Now, you see, I take that whole idea of enjoying everything to the extreme in this case,
Okay, tell
where
me more.
it doesn't really matter what you want to bring up. You want to talk MCU, DC, anime, Star Wars, Star Trek, Dune, literally anything. I can probably talk your ear off in it. I appreciate them all in different ways. Like
Do
each one
you
hits a different note
actively
for me.
watch all of them? Like, did you watch all the
Yes.
MCU things that came out last year?
I just finished watching Spider-Man, yes.
Okay. Did you watch
Literally today.
like Eternals and Hawkeye and
Oh, no, no, no. I haven't fully watched all of those just because I don't
okay,
have
okay.
access to them.
Gotcha, gotcha.
And I don't wanna go pirating all of it at least.
Wait, I mean, okay, okay. So, cuz I'm going to need someone to like talk nerdy with these movies and TV shows. I've always been on the lookout.
I got the comic book knowledge, though.
Yeah, I've been on the lookout for someone for a while, so I might have to come to
Oh.
you at some point in the future and be like, let's
Oh,
just do a
man.
stream where we talk about like this movie or this show or what have
Oh,
you.
I am your man. I am lore, story writing, fucking
You'll
brain.
have to
Oh,
come
I
on
can talk about
camera
that
that
shit
time
forever.
though.
Oh, that I can do, yes. I just won't be streaming it myself because of my really ghetto setup.
Oh, well, your setup last time was fine. What are you talking about?
I wasn't streaming last time.
Oh, but why not?
Yeah,
I put the video
'cause
on YouTube. There's evidence.
well, the reason I have to use my phone for my camera,
Yeah.
and the way I need to run it through OBS is the only way to get that then to go to Discord is use the, what is it called here? The virtual camera. But if I use the virtual camera on here, it means that my entire stream will just be my face. Like, everything that's shown here will just be my cam. You won't see anything but my face on my stream. So it was better than I just, like, stayed off and just, like, referenced to your video for that. Until I've got,
Mm,
like, an actual webcam that actually plugs into my computer, I won't be able to get around that.
got it. Got it.
It's just really stupid setup.
Gotcha. So we got to start a GoFundMe to get you a camera. I mean,
Damn
we're
right.
talking like $100. So, we'll just have to,
Damn right.
do a charity stream for you.
Yeah, throw another 500 in there, we'll call it rent too, and we're good.
And there you go. There you go.
I like it a lot, alright.
Yeah. Oh, and
See,
lastly,
capitalism at work.
do you happen to know anybody else offhand who might want to join a future panel? I decided that I probably need to do a little bit more outreach
I was thinking about that.
and ask some people.
There's 2 I can think of. Do you know Critical Canadian?
I do, yeah.
He
I've been
is
trying to
definitely
recruit him. He's dodged me a few times. So
eh,
I'm not sure if he like
he's a
li-
dad.
w-
He's got commitments,
no,
so
I'm sure. I wasn't sure if he was giving me like the I'm not interested, but I'm trying to be polite vibes, or like it just has been bad timing.
from
It's
my
it's hard to know
experience,
with
I
him.
would give you option B is more likely.
Yeah.
'Cause he's flaked out on me a couple of times, but it's like he works in a basements apparently too, so
Right.
I'm not gonna sit here and be like, "Meh, it's just fine, it's fine."
Right.
Sign Streams is another one. SEINE Streams. He does his own podcast, actually. He's really small. He's I think he's sitting around like 60, 70 followers maybe at the most. But
Okay.
he hosts his own podcast, so he's definitely experienced in it.
Okay.
He was one of the first people that actually followed me on both Twitter and here. Kinda
If you
actually owe him
want
a
to
little bit.
send me his info in Discord,
Yeah.
or just like reach out to him and be
Oh, well,
like, "Hey,
I'll send you his Twitter profile
yeah, okay." Yeah,
because I
cuz
know
I'm
that's like
trying
the
to
easiest
like
thing for me.
broaden my pool of people that I can go to.
Fair enough. I'm thinking of other more general areas. Like there are a couple Discords out there for creators, but it's more
Yeah.
like general. You'll find way more people that aren't into discussions. They're just trying to pump out content to make money. And it's
Yeah,
usually
I was
incredibly grifty
trying to
shit.
go for like I guess like you've like someone you personally vouch for, cuz I was
Yes.
sure that I could find random people myself. I was trying to find more like
You never know
someone
what
you
you're
would
gonna get.
personally know. Be like, "Oh, I
Well,
know this person, they're good, like, have them on."
I'm trying to think of anyone you might not know, and those are the two that come to my head is Critical. Yeah, he would be good, but if he doesn't show up, he doesn't show up.
I'm gonna
Things
ask him
happen.
again, but yeah, I mean, he's already said
Yeah.
no a couple times, so I'm like, yeah, when someone says no to me about, like, 3 or 4 times, like, at that point, like, even if they were all
Bro.
legitimate, I'm kinda like, "Well, maybe I should just take the hint in case it was a hint."
Yeah,
So,
yeah. They know you're looking.
yeah,
If they want to be on, they will come to you,
yeah,
which is another thing. But, yeah, Sign would be another one. He actually hosts his own panels that are usually fairly from what I've seen, they're really chill, less structured. So, I think he'd be quite a good one. He'd be very, very good at actually getting his points together, having that experience.
yeah.
Better than me.
Alright, if you can send me that information in Discord, that'd be great.
Happy to. I'll keep a
Alright.
lookout. That's just who I know off the top of my head. I imagine anyone else I mentioned you'd probably already be well fucking aware of.
Who?
Because again, I'm still pretty new in this. Mind Waves, he might.
I
He
no
used to
don't even
stream a
know
lot
that
more.
person.
He's a bit of a political streamer who used to be bigger, but he
Yeah.
stopped streaming for a while and just picked it back up recently. Literally the first person to follow me on Twitter. I was actually kind of blown away on that one. Like, oh, I'm
Have you
doing something
talked to this
right.
person before?
Not personally,
Okay.
but I have like sat. Well, I guess if you count me like being in their Twitch chat as talking to them, but
Yeah.
yeah. Other than that, though, they are really good voice, good mic, good setup. Worth at least giving it a shot too.
Yeah,
They
send me the
won't they
info.
won't Okay, yeah, I can almost promise Mindwaves isn't the kind of person that's going to drop an N-bomb out of nowhere kind of thing.
Well, I'd boot anybody who did that, so
Yeah, yeah, just still though.
yeah,
Don't wanna
but
have anyone coming in thinking,
that's
"Oh,
a
now's
quick
my
ban.
moment." Still though, you can never, like, catch it fast enough. I've
Well,
had
no, I mean,
times
like,
like
even
where
if, like I mean, obviously, that'd be violating TOS, so, like,
yeah,
that would mess me up, but, like, even if it didn't
no,
violate TOS, I would still, like, ban someone for doing that, like, I would personally
good,
ban them, be like, "You're not getting
like,
back in my
immediate.
Discord, you're not getting back in anything, like, that's, like you're done." That's
Like,
a 0 tolerance.
there was one I kinda had a problem. Did you see that Hawes debate that everyone's memeing about right now?
No, I mean, I watched like 10 minutes of it, maybe less, but
Mm.
like that is like legitimately like the epitome of everything I don't want.
Oh god, it's pure entertainment for me as far as I'm concerned. Like,
Right,
if
and I
I'm gonna
know so
watch
many
that,
people are into that, but I'm just like, that
yeah,
just
I
like
I
that is
watched
like
it once, I
when
can't
I
do it
talk
again.
about like the definition of WWE and performative, like that is it to a
It
T.
really was. Oh
It
my
really
god,
is
that
like
was
I was watching
those
that
wrestling
dude
intros.
like yell into his microphone. I'm like it's one of two things. Either dude has like well, it's one of three things. Either A, you have serious mental disorder. B, you are hopped up on some kind of like testosterone or steroids or like HGH. Or three, you're performing for a character. And
They might
regardless
be all
of
fucking
whatever the
3.
case may be, I'm not into any of those three. So
No, I completely agree. The reason I'm bringing it up is, the narrator moderating debates, modern day debates,
yeah,
he's really, really fucking good at what he does, but the one mistake I think he made here was, well, 2 actually. The first one's kind of funny, and I don't even know how it happened. For some reason, the mute controls that modern day debates had
yeah.
was also accessible to everyone else. So if he muted you, you could unmute yourself.
Well,
And I
that's
think
dumb.
that, yeah, right there, obvious fucking problem.
Yeah.
So
That's why I put
Hawes,
my stuff into Zoom so I can mute everybody.
right?
Yeah.
You think there would at least be some, like, on his stream, he could at least mute it? Like, I'd mute the whole fucking Discord if it got to that point, be like,
Yeah.
"Alright, so nobody can talk for now?" But the second mistake was letting Haas go on like that. Like, I get it, content and all this, but holy fuck, did it devolve. Like, at the very end, I'm pretty confident you didn't get towards the end. Everyone left to where it was just Destiny, Haas, and, Dylan. Like, modern day debates was gone, Hinkle had left. They were all like, I'm out. I got my fill here, and it just kept going.
I came in at a part where like
God,
it seemed like the roided dude was trying to like challenge Dylan to a fight, and then he was calling Destiny a
yeah, that's
pedophile, and I was
that's been
like,
a thing for a while, yeah.
yeah, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm sure this is a great conversation, everyone. I guess if I wanted to watch people yell at each other like this, I could just turn on VH1 and watch some Real
Some
Housewives of
reality
Atlanta,
TV.
or like come on, man. Like what are we doing here? What are we doing
And
here?
this,
Like I don't got time for this shit. You
I
know?
think Haas is a bit of like a warning of like internet stardom in a sense. Like, stardom, obviously, he's not really much of a fucking celebrity, but holy shit, did the internet ruin that man? Because I know people that were fans of him back in the day before he got to this, and
Yeah.
they tell me that he was very calm. He would literally sit there and read political, what's the term? Uh, just documents. He would just read documents calmly for like an entire stream.
Yeah.
And now he's this roided up, eating his mic while he flexes. And what happened to you? Oh my God. He's kind of like a warning to everyone that spends time online. Don't let it go to your fucking head.
Or just go outside and talk to normal people. I feel like
Yes.
the one thing that I get really wrapped up in when I'm doing this is the fact that sometimes like I forget, and I think other people forget too, is that if you're in this political sphere, like we are fucking weirdos. Like
Oh,
most
very
normal
much.
people don't pay attention to politics this much. And it's for a
No.
good reason because it fucking rots your brain. I mean,
And they
because
don't broadcast their opinions.
yeah, I mean, like if I go out in public and I'm hanging out with like my regular friends, like we're not talking about politics. We're not
Oh, I
talking
fucking
about
hope you're not.
no, we're not talking about what the fuck is happening with Tucker Carlson, and we're definitely not
No.
talking about anything happening on Twitch with people like Vosh or Dylan Burns or Haas. Like that's not what normal people have conversations about. And so it's like,
Nope.
just go out into the real world, and recognize again, just like how how much of like a really tight knit community this is, and how like what happens in this sphere isn't like the whole world. I think some people get too wrapped up in this being like a part of their like daily identity. It's just like you
Can't
got to
agree
you got to be
more.
able to separate yourself from this shit.
That's one reason I'm glad I have roommates, because every time I talk to them, it's like a slap of reality because they're so not involved with this.
Yeah,
Like, only one of them even watches Twitch, and he does like once a year. So
yeah,
it's kind of they're like precious of oh my god, breaths of fresh air, you know, that just
Yeah.
get me out of that zone. And it, I remember going into work and still being in like the Twitch kind of headset,
Yeah.
and then having someone come up and talk to me about some unbelievably mundane thing, and me looking at them really stupidly. Oh, right, this is a normal conversation. Shit, yes, yes. Right, this is normal. We don't hate each. Oh, god damn it.
Yeah.
But then you do find the one person that asks you about it. They're like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I watch Twitch." Well, what do you watch? Stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I I have this kind of this same exact reaction with the other things too. Like with like honestly with the nerd stuff and with sports. Because if you're really engrossed into these things, kind of like the way that I am,
Yep.
and you try having a casual conversation with somebody else and you realize just how much more you know about a subject than somebody else
Deer in
does, you have
headlights.
to like immediately like dial yourself from like this level down to here
Oh, shit, shit, shit,
to
sorry, I meant this.
yeah, to have this
Yeah, yeah,
conversation. I'm like all
yeah.
the time. So I'm just like, okay, okay, hold on. I can't like geek out too much, you know? And honestly, when it comes to like politics, I try to let that inform me about how I like curate my episodes because I realize that a lot of people who listen to my podcast aren't like heavy into political shit. And so
S
I can't just go into a subject assuming that everyone knows all these like nuances that I know. So I'm like, okay, for some people this might feel like really like elementary, but for other people it may be very helpful. So who do you like I guess who do you like curate your stuff for, which I'm trying to find like a middle ground there, but trying to remember that there's some people who just don't know some shit that I would assume is basic, but for them it isn't.
so, follow with me here. Would you consider
Yeah.
yourself an educator in that sense? That you're teaching people something they might not know?
I think that it's important to I no, the short answer is no, but I think that the it's important to not to assume that everyone's on your level when you're talking about something. And I don't mean that like in a disrespectful way, but
No,
like
no, I get what you mean.
I like for instance, like when I'm talking about like I remember like one episode talking about like unions. And I was like, you know what, maybe I should just take a second to just explain what exactly a union does. Like I think everyone knows what a union is, but maybe I should take a second to explain what a union does. And like I would like
Surprising
take
that
like
few people
30
know.
seconds to like briefly touch on it. So that if anyone was unaware, you got like your 30-second shot of like what you might need to know, and then we can go with the rest of the conversation.
Perfect.
You know what I mean?
'Cause yeah, the reason I love that actually, it's absolutely perfect. Makes me think of like watching history videos where they have just like a little speech bubble pop up so they
Yeah.
don't have to waste time with the actual video. Really good idea, actually. But
Yeah.
the reason I asked specifically the educator question is because it, I can see why you wouldn't refer to yourself that way because you don't see yourself as directly teaching people or that being your direct goal,
No.
but you kind of are indirectly. Like someone comes in, they go, "Oh, I didn't know that." You
Right.
educated them. But that's a good thing, the fact that you use certain language, because that's the difference between, how do I put it? An intellectual and an educator. An intellectual, more often than not, of course, this is not painting with one fucking brush here, but often like to show off their knowledge, you know? So
Yeah.
for them using complicated terminology and possibly confusing the other person is almost like a victory. Like, yes, this proves that I am qualified. I
Oh, I've
know what
met
I
so
know.
many of
That
these people,
exactly.
especially in a
You are
college
the
town.
polar opposite. You are the educator style, where you will want someone to get to the same level as you, not just hoard over the fact that you are at that higher level. So you will use language for them to understand. Like if I'm explaining someone and I know the person across the table from me is a car person, I'll
Yeah.
use car language because I know it'll get across to them 1,000 times easier.
Right.
Like I never trying to explain things about the internet to my mother. That was so fucking difficult. Oh my god. Born in the '60s, you know?
Exactly. That's actually a perfect analogy. That and the
Mm.
cars thing too. It's like you have to understand that like maybe some people are very intelligent, but they don't know shit about cars.
Oh, I love
It,
that. Yes.
yeah, and so like or they're very
You
intelligent,
can't
but they don't know shit about like how computers basically function, which is going
you
to be like
can't
your
judge a
older
fish by its
population.
ability to climb a tree.
Yeah, so it's just like so I don't like to go into all these political conversations being like, like, "Oh, of course everyone knows about this issue." It's like, well, just
Exactly.
But there's a and I also don't wanna be, like, giving everyone, like, a one-on-one lesson either, so it's like, I think there's a fine line way of being able to give some basic information for those out there who don't know, so that they're not listening to a conversation and feeling like, "Oh, this is all over my head." Because I've had that happen to me so many times in the past, like, even I had that still happen to me. When I watch my news coverage, like, the journalists that I go to get my news, there's been so many times where I'll listen to them, and they'll be having discussions that where they're just like casually glossing over something as if I'm supposed to know what it is. And
Yeah,
I'm the kind of person where like if I don't know what's being discussed, it kind of pisses me off. I'm just like, okay, well,
you get
I
stuck
want to
on it.
follow along with you, but I can't because you just assumed that I knew that and I didn't know that. And so now I'm not really sure. Now I have to hopefully parse together what that was by the references and okay, like I think this is part of the reason why people check out of politics because they don't quite understand what the fuck's going on all the time.
Yes. Especially with, like, when if you go on Twitter and you see these people that are dropping these, like, 15-letter words describing incredibly niche political terminology that you're only ever gonna use once every 6 fucking months anyways,
Yes.
they're like, "I want nothing to do with this. This might as well be accounting class," which
Yes.
sucks.
Yeah. So I hate being that person. I hate just
It's
more or
better that you
less.
are. Oh, no, sorry, I heard that wrong, never mind.
Yeah, no, I hate, I guess, like, being that person, so, like, I've tried to, like, actively make sure that I wasn't that person. I'm sure
Good, good.
occasionally I'm still, d I guess, like,
You're human.
assuming too much, but, trying to fix those blind spots where you can see them at.
I think trying and possibly overstepping a little bit is still better than just leaving someone in the dust.
Right,
So even if you do trip and fall at the end, you've still done better than not doing anything at all.
right.
To try and fail is better than to not have tried at all.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling myself anyway.
Yeah,
So
at least you won't have anything to regret afterwards.
yeah, yeah, no, definitely. But, actually on that note, I'm actually just noticing what time it is. I'm gonna have to jump
Yeah,
off of here.
I
Um,
actually have to pee, so I was thinking kind of that same thing.
but, yeah, before I let you go here, one
Mhm.
final question. What kind of topics, politically speaking, are you, I guess, more uncomfortable with? So I know which panels not to like, like reach out and be like, "Hey, you wanna be on this one?"
Well, honestly, I'm pretty open. I
Yeah.
don't think you would do anything that would cross that line.
Yeah.
The only thing that for me that would is like the stuff you see on like politically provoked, where they're like white genocide discussion, like I don't
Right,
fucking
right, right.
or Lauren Southern saying there isn't, bodies of Native kids being found here in Canada. I don't want to hear that shit. That's just openly denying what is fact and that I have personal friends that affects. So
Yeah.
for me, it's very hard to not take that personally. Even though I
Yeah.
can, if it's not Lauren fucking Southern, I can probably handle myself. But then
You
there's
know,
also the convoy.
I've still never like seen a single thing that she's done. I've heard her name, but I don't know who she is. I don't know what she looks like.
Oh,
I don't even know a single thing about her politics.
I almost want to tell you to keep it that way.
You know
You
what?
might just be better off.
I don't like I'm a curious person, but like when I hear certain people being brought up and I kind of can get the idea of who they might be, I'm
Mm.
just sometimes just not that curious. I'm like, yeah, I just don't care. I just don't care.
She'll probably just upset you with everything. She was, very well, she's younger, actually, she's much younger than us. Fuck, man, I think she's, like, 4 years younger than me, which I was very surprised by. I still
Oh,
feel like
okay.
I'm
So she's
19
like
half the
mid
time.
20s now.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
she's quite young, but, like, really successful. She
that
worked with, like,
happens.
Rebel Media, uh, fuck it, the Canadian guy who started, Pride the Pride Boys.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I know who he. Oh, I know of him.
Gavin McInnes.
Yeah,
Gavin McInnes, that's his name. She also went to South Africa and covered a lot of stuff on the apparent white genocide happening there, spread a lot of lies about that. Then there was her going during the refugee crisis in the Mediterranean, when all the boats were going to like Greece and Italy, and there were a
yeah,
lot of people dying in the ocean. A rumor went around that she got on a boat with a bunch of Nazis and shot flares at one of these boats, trying to keep them from landing, which turns out is not true, but the only part that's not true is the flare part. She did get on a boat. They did harass boats of immigrants coming in with like anti-immigrant flags, and she's just been an absolute speaker for like hardcore white identity
So she's a
talking
white
points.
supremacist.
I don't want to say that because it's almost a meme, but fucking yes.
Well, I mean,
Just
that word
yes,
has been
it is.
overused. It has been
It
overused. Like
has. It
there's no
doesn't
getting
have
around
the
that.
oomph.
And it's almost like it's the
It's like calling her
connotation
a
of the word
meanie.
has almost been, like, I guess, like, brought down because it's
It
been
has, yeah.
overused so much.
And then
But
she uses it to her benefit too, 'cause she's like, "Oh, look at them just calling me a Nazi."
when you are constantly advocating, like, for the white race and you are
Yes.
constantly, demeaning people who aren't whites, I mean,
Yeah.
that's almost like that's not even connotation, that's denotation at that point. You are definitively saying that you believe that other races are below white people, which is the definition of white supreme, right?
And she'll still argue that to the day she dies.
It's just like I don't. Yeah, I don't need to go read up on people like that. Like I
Yeah.
know assholes exist. I don't need more proof.
Yeah, so as long
you
as, like,
know?
topics don't get into that kinda shit, I'm all
Yeah.
good. As
Okay.
long as it's not like I'm debating the value of someone's fucking life here, because no, screw you, man. I'm not going that far.
No,
I'm
I
not
would check
debating
out of
bro
those
that much.
conversations too.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think you would do anything that would lead me to go tapping out. The oil one was just like, I literally felt like I had nothing, and I
Right.
figured you would find better people, but always, if you do need someone, feel free to hit me up.
All right. Well, I will
Just shoot me
keep
the
that in
questions,
mind.
and I'll write them down.
All right. I will keep that in mind and I will be ending this stream, I think, on that note.
Alright, well, it was
And
good talking with you.
yeah, man, good talking to you too. We'll have to set something up in the future. I'll, hop on Discord
Yes!
and we'll plan something out. Um
I
Yeah, I'm not
appreciate the
sure
advice
what's
too, I
next
really
is, but
enjoyed
I'm
your has given me a lot to, like, think over.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I got about, like, 5 minutes left. Did you have any more questions that you had?
Um, I don't wanna get too far into technical things because it's so, like, individual. Like, I'm
That's
in my
good.
own situation that has its
I
own
I
fucking
literally have, like I'm looking at the clock right now. I got, like, 5 minutes-ish. So, like, yeah, what do you got?
is there something, like, specifically that you're waiting for?
Say what?
Is there something, like, specific you're waiting for?
Oh,
'Cause
no, my
that's
girlfriend just told me that, like, she wanted to go eat at this time, and, like, I'm not gonna tell her no. So,
Oh, no, fair, totally
yeah,
fair, okay.
yeah.
I was like, "That's very specific, 5 minutes, okay."
Yeah, well, she
Okay,
came in the room a few minutes ago, and she kinda, like, put up her hand. She was like, 5. It's like,
okay,
"Okay."
fair. I ain't gonna come between that. That is
Yeah.
fair.
So
And it's not as late for you, it's 7:30-ish for you?
yeah, yeah, the sun is very much still
Yeah.
out. Plus, we're on, like, the edge of the time zone. So, like,
Oh, I
1 well, so, like, 6 we are 100 miles from the time zone. So,
the switchover spot?
yeah, where it turns to Pacific
Right.
time.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'll tell
yeah.
you what, the one to fill a couple minutes, I'll ask you this. What is your favorite band or group or individual artist? If you were fucking forced to pick one, and I understand how much of a hard fucking question that is, that's
This
why
is
I'm
the
asking
same
you.
question as, like, what's your favorite movie? Like, I'm always blown away by people who
Yeah,
can answer this, actually. Because
yeah,
it's
that's why it's
like
a really good question.
yeah, because 'cause I'm like, I can give you 10 maybe. I mean,
Yeah,
I
but
might
can
be
you
able to
narrow
narrow
them
it down
all
to
down?
10. Like, music
You
is
know what? Pick your
so
10 favorite people, shoot 9 of them, and tell me which one you didn't shoot.
music is very, mood driven for me. So, like, what mood am I the most in?
Mhm.
So I have, like, favorites for different moods, but I guess if I'm really being forced to pick just one, which still isn't fair, but I would have to pick Lupe Fiasco for a myriad of
Ooh.
reasons.
Ooh, I wasn't expecting that. Oh, I like it. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. See, I like to ask this because it's a weird hobby of mine too. I don't do this with everyone because I know most people aren't really open for it
Yeah.
because, years of experience doing it. But I love trying to find music for people. And
Right.
it's always people that are open to the concept. There always is like one out of every three kind of thing. And only one person in my life has ever really thrown me for a loop when it comes to finding new tunes for them. And it
Yeah.
was a guy who personally was into like big band music from the 1920s. I didn't know what to do with that. I was like, how the fuck? Uh, who are where? Why? This music is literally 100 years old. Who are you? He was a 20-year-old guy. It's all he would listen to. There was nothing I could send to him that he would listen to.
Yeah, people are pretty tribal about music. I mean,
Oh,
I
he was friendly, I'll give him that. He was very polite about it, but just no.
I have gotten to a place recently, and I think I mentioned this to a friend just a couple weeks ago. I have stopped listening to new music, and it's
Really?
not like it's not in a sense of like
Not the boomer
elitism or
kind of thing?
like or anything like that. It was just like finding new music is kind of a chore,
It is.
and I don't like I don't have a gap that needs to be filled. Like, I probably have, like, a collection of, like, a few thousand songs that I consistently, like, rotate
Not
through,
bad. Not
and
bad.
I I don't think I've put a new song in there for at least, like, 5 years, and I haven't had any desire to. Like, I don't feel the need to find new music. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very much satisfied
Fair, fair.
with what I have.
Oh, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
I
But
find
it's
myself
probably like 3,000, like
that's a
close to
healthy list,
4,000
by the way.
songs. But
That
yeah,
that's a pretty fucking healthy list. I'm not gonna lie to you.
yeah.
Most people have like 40 song lists, and I'm not kidding. It's that short. You'd be surprised. Most people
Well,
are just like, eh, I just like my singles, the stuff that's really popular and I heard on the radio kind of thing.
I've been
Because
building my music collection since 2005.
that's one reason why I asked, because to me that's a sign of a personality that you want to be a more of an individual. You care about what hits you more rather than
Yeah.
just like what was in the moment.
I mean, I
Like,
definitely have like poppy music in my list because some of that's just
no, it's
catchy
fine.
and like
Yeah,
I'm not mad
if you
about
like
it.
it, you like it.
Yeah, I like it, but I think for me, I grew up listening to hip hop music.
Mm,
I listened to a lot of classic rock with my dad, and
yep,
then my
yep, yep.
mom, she was really big into R&B music, especially that like 70s like Motown music.
I
So I got a
wish,
lot of that
very wish.
influence in me as well. So I mean, between like those 3 genres, I mean, those go very deep. So I was able to curate probably like
Honestly,
thousands of artists just through like those like 3 like subgenres.
yeah, that covers so much ground, especially
Yeah, it really did, especially like the classic rock portion of it. Like my dad, when I lived in Philly, there was like so many classic rock like radio stations like in the Philadelphia area. And so I remember I would just be
definitely,
driving around
definitely.
that area with him and like it just relentless amounts of classic rock music like being around Sam. And then same story with my mom, just being around her, she would just be always listening to like Stevie Wonder and like the Isleys and the Supremes and Whitney Houston and even more like 90s stuff like Boys to Men and just
Boyz II
like
Men, oh, I haven't thought about them
oh,
for years. Holy crap.
TLC. I mean,
TLC,
yeah.
Matchbox 20.
But yeah, I mean, like I grew up on a lot of that shit. And then I was personally like into hip hop music when I was coming up, 90s stuff, 2000, like early 2000s, mid 2000s. And then yeah, I think somewhere around like the 2012, 2013, like I just like I, like, kinda, like, started winding down where I just wasn't, like, looking for new music anymore, and, like, a few years ago, I literally was just like, "You know what? Like, I just don't feel the need to go find new music all the time the way I used to." Like, I'm just good.
Do you use Spotify or anything like that?
Not really. I mean,
Ah,
like, I
okay.
used to, but not really anymore. I kinda honestly, I like YouTube, and I think that's probably
It is
because
good.
I grew up watching music videos, like, in that MTV generation, so I
Yeah,
like have
yeah.
my music videos.
It is kinda weird on Spotify never seeing the music videos and then, like, a year later finally seeing the music video for a song you've heard for a year, and you're like, "Oh my god,
Exactly.
wow. This completely destroys the song, what the fuck?"
So many times.
It just put the
So many
worst fucking
times.
video.
There was, like, a one, like, Kanye West song that I
Ugh,
had listened to for, like, a decade, and I had never seen the music video until, honestly, just recently, like, within the last, like,
mhm,
year, and I was like,
ruined.
"Wow, that was horrendous." Like, that was so bad. I can't believe I
I
even just
really wish I
watched that
didn't
shit.
see that.
Yeah, I was just I can't unsee how bad that was. And, like, I
No,
try to, like I almost, like, have to, like, block it out now. Actually, I feel weird even listening to Kanye's music right now because of how toxic he's being, but
I gotta say Kanye is the weirdest fucking example in music to me. I don't understand the hype around him at all. I don't hate
I
on people for enjoying his music. I don't. I just don't fucking get it.
I stopped listening to his newer shit because it wasn't like it wasn't feeling the same. Like it feels almost like he as a person like changed like over time. So
We
like
lost his freaking mind.
yeah, the first like 3 albums that he
He's
put
just
out,
actually insane now.
I do feel like he has a legitimate mental disorder. It just seems pretty apparent.
Recently, it's getting pretty serious
It seems
now.
pretty apparent. Like and honestly, like I feel for people going through that. I actually have people
Yeah,
in my own
yeah.
family who've had mental disorders. So
Yes,
I
yeah.
so like I feel
You
for
don't wanna make
people,
jokes.
but at the same time, like you also can't excuse behavior because you have a mental disorder.
No,
It's a
there's a
fine
child
it's a
involved in
fine
this.
line in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got a kid that's, like, involved in this, so it's pretty serious.
Yeah, there's a really fine line in there. Like it's obviously the guy needs help, but at the same time, like you can't like excuse it all because he needs help. So, but anyway, the point I'm trying to say is like mid 2000s when he put out like his college dropout like album, like I still think that's like one of the best albums ever made. Like it's so
Really?
good. It's so good. Like there's probably like at least like 7 or 8 like singles on there that are just fucking phenomenal. And some of them like he never even put out as singles. Like I think he
Well,
put out
I'll
like
tell you
3
what.
or 4 from that album, and there's like 4 or 5 more just like absolute gems. Like there's this one of the songs on there is one of my favorite songs of all time from anyone.
What is it?
It's called Family Business. It's like one of like the last tracks like on the CD. And I fucking love that song. I love that whole album. His first
Here's
3 albums were gold. And then I feel like after that it just really kind of like fell the fuck off. Cuz it felt like when he
it got me
first came out he was
curious.
trying to talk about like real issues. And then it seems like he got lost in the
President Bush
fame.
doesn't care about black people.
That was real shit. That
That
was
was
real
real
shit.
shit. That was.
That was
And
real
just
shit.
Michael standing beside
So,
him was like, "Yo, fucking what?"
yeah.
He wasn't supposed to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a real thing. So,
That was, like, I admit, I had a lot of respect. Early Kanye actually seemed like there was, a goal in mind, like he was heading down some kind of road.
yeah.
Nowadays, it's like, fuck, man, he just goes whichever way the wind blows.
I feel like that happens to a lot of people, unfortunately. And I
Yeah.
mean, you get caught up in making millions of dollars and you're just like, well, this is what sells, so now I sell this. And that's unfortunate, but I guess I try to like hold on to the memory of what was, which isn't fair, but I don't know. It's a weird thing to get into, but
It can mean
yeah.
something to you as well. That's just because it's his creation doesn't mean it's just his. I know that's
Yeah,
weird, but
it
every
was
artist
weird.
thinks this way as well.
I remember having this same kind of conversation back in the day about like Michael Jackson. It was just like
Yeah, yeah,
it was
good
like
example.
it's like, should I still listen to Michael Jackson's music knowing what we know now? I was just like, but I love that
Well
music, but it's like, ugh, it was such a such an uncomfortable place to be, you know?
Well, here's a really easy way of getting around that one that I've always used. Let me just look up the guy's name again here. You could say you enjoy Michael Jackson's music, or you could say you enjoy Jonathan Moffett's music. He's the drummer to, Michael Jackson, so you're still saying the same thing without applying Michael Jackson.
Well, I
There
mean,
are
at
other
that point, you're
people that
just
wrote the
hiding for
music.
the sake of trying
Well,
not to
it's still the
sound
same thing
bad.
because other people are involved in writing that. It's not just Michael Jackson. He
Oh,
just wrote the
that's
lyrics.
true. That's true.
So, I mean, you can not like the lyrics of the song, but the guy who played the drums had nothing to do with what, Michael Jackson was doing.
That
The
okay, I see
Kanye
what you're
thing to
saying.
me is like, I literally don't understand why he was that popular, but I'm open to learning why. So I'll tell you what,
I mean,
next time we talk, I
yeah.
want to hear that speech on that album.
Okay. Well, I
Like,
think just to
I've
give
got
you
the
like
song here
a really
loaded up.
brief thing here. I'm getting the fingers from across the room here. I'm
Yeah,
being
yeah,
told that we got to
I'm
wrap it
dragging you
up.
here. I'm
But
dragging
I
you.
think the thing I want to leave you with is the reason why
Mm,
he was so popular in the beginning was because he was essentially counterculture.
really?
And kind of like how how you were describing those like that like 90s rock music as being like its
I was
own
just thinking that, yeah.
counterculture. Kanye West was a counterculture. Like hip hop
And he
was in a
started the
place
early 2000s, right?
right about 2003 2004.
Yeah, that sounds about
Hip
right,
hop
okay.
was a very kind of like it had like almost like a very similar vibe across the board. Everyone's doing the
Mm,
gangster rap shit. Everyone kind of looked the
yeah.
same. You had the fucking like 3X tees, big t-shirts, fucking like jerseys,
It seemed
fucking
more rigid than other styles in the way that, like, you had to fit an image, and if you
right.
didn't, you were, like, outcast.
Kanye came out like not only did he have like a different like fashion sense, but he also was, like not afraid to be intellectual with his raps, which was also at that time kind of frowned upon, or it was like looked at as like
Interest
not as good. And
very in
he was a producer. So like most producers didn't actually also like rap. And he was like an amazing producer before he ever even like dropped a single record. So his music just sounded better than anyone else because he was like producing his own like music alongside of like the rap itself. So he was just and he also like was under Jay-Z, who was the biggest name at the time. So
that would
like
help.
yeah, so like he had this just like perfect wave of so many things working for him, and so like he was like
Okay.
a cultural phenomenon. And so yeah, it was and then I guess to top it all off, the music just was good. So
Yeah, I can't take away his music was quality. I guess the few songs that I do remember off the top of my head, I just maybe because I only heard singles or like individual songs or didn't know his story too much, I was sitting here going, I don't see what's so special about this. It's good, but it's
yeah.
not like unique.
Right. Well,
I don't see
sometimes
the thing.
knowing someone's story amplifies it. And I think the fact that he
Yeah.
almost died too came into a thing. Because
Oh,
his
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, his
To
first song
the
was called
extent of
"Through
that
the
one too.
Wire" because his mouth was, like, wired shut from the
Oh,
accident that he
damn.
had because he, like, got into a car
Damn.
accident where he almost fucking died, and they had to, like, do, like, reconstructive surgery on his mouth. And so his first album, he couldn't even open his mouth all the way, so he was just, like, talking like this the whole time.
Interesting. I think I've actually heard someone tell me that before.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so, no, he's got a story, but I gotta go on that note,
yeah,
but we
I'll be
will
happy to
talk
listen.
in the Discord, alright?
Yes, I'll send you the details for Sign and Mind Waves. Had to think of the names.
Perfect. Alright, man, I appreciate you.
You too. You enjoy the dinner.
Alright, see ya.
Have a good one.
All right. Goodbye to everybody who's in chat. I appreciate you being here. See you in the next one.